Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting for Monday the 18th of June. Right, and before we start, I'd like to read a fairly lengthy statement from our standing orders and what has happened over the last couple of years, so that anybody who's not up to speed with these planning applications and how it works, then we might be able to educate you. The process of the meeting is such that the Planning Committee will work through this agenda and consider the application before us in the order of the agenda. Many of you are present to hear about the planning application EPF 1494/18 for North Weald Park. When we get to this item on the agenda, committee members will be given a presentation summarising the application, followed by a period of debate. As always, there is an agenda item on each Planning Committee meeting agenda entitled Representations from Members of the Public. I will be proposing, subject to the agreement of the Planning Committee, that members of the public are given an opportunity to address the committee regarding this application immediately after the period of debate. This will be your opportunity to advise the committee of your views concerning this application. Please be aware that the Planning Committee will not be able to answer any questions you may have regarding this application, but will consider the comments you raise prior to their formal deliberation and decision regarding this application. If you intend to address the committee, you will be asked to raise your hand, and myself as chair will invite you to speak. There is normally a strict period of time for public comments, and as such I kindly ask you that the comments are succinct and relevant. In addition, if somebody before you has raised a similar or same point, I ask that they are not to be reiterated. The opinions of our residents are vitally important to us. However, we do ask that all in attendance respect the format and legal constraints of this properly constituted meeting. In addition, it is worth advising those present that the Parish Council is what is known as a statutory consultee. Whilst we are able to pass comment on planning applications, we do not grant or refuse them. This is the responsibility of the local planning authority, whom in this instance is Epping Forest District Council. In the interest of openness and transparency, residents present are asked to note that on the 11th of November 2016, the Parish Council received correspondence from a representative of Quinn Estates asking for a meeting with the Parish Council regarding their intention to develop North Weald Golf Club site. This request with the parish was denied. However, in April 2017, representatives of Quinn gave an address to a number of parish councillors setting out their aspirations for the site. This was not a meeting of the Parish Council or the Planning Committee, but was an invitation given to all parish councillors by Quinn Estates. Shortly after this address, Quinn Estates held a public consultation in North Weald about their proposals. For the past 2 years, a representative of Quinn Estates has attended many of the Parish Council and Planning Committee meetings and has on occasions provided an update on the status of their intended application for the site. These can be reviewed by viewing the Parish Council's minutes on its website. No other meetings have taken place. It should be made clear that until this meeting tonight, no formal application has been received, and as such, this is the first time an application for this site has come before the Planning Committee or the Parish Council. It should also be noted that Quinn Estates has also expressed on numerous occasions an interest to meet with the Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group. Due to the early stage of the Neighbourhood Plan, the steering group has not met any developers and will not do so until the responses from the current Neighbourhood Plan questionnaire consultations have been collated. to ensure the steering group is fully informed of the opinion of its residents with regard to future development. I'm sorry that that was a long statement, but we felt that it had to be said. So we'll now start with the Planning Committee agenda, and the item number 1 is apologies for absence.
So I have apologies from Councillors Nigel Bedford, Mary Crosby and Elaine Godwin.
Yeah. Any other absences?
That. If I tell you the speakers I have, just to check that I haven't missed anybody. I have Chris Gosson from Epping Youth Football Club, Ian Cuthbert from the Karate Club, Mark Stroud from 3rd North Weald Scouts, and Hamish Buttle from Quinn Estates. I haven't missed anybody else, have I?
With the North Weald Golf Course, and the application before us is very extensive, and I'd like really for the council to discuss it to start with, and then I shall open it to the 4 speakers that we've got, and then I'm very happy to open it to the floor as long as I deem that it be relevant. Okay? Right.
Okay, so first of all, just to get your bearings. So this is the parcel of land. This is the 414. Harlow is up this end. The Talbot is that end. So it is not all, but roughly this part of land here, and a section of this part of land here. There is a clearer map as we go through. So just for your information, the planning application includes an immense amount of paperwork. There are over 1,000 pages of evidence. And what I'm going to talk through today summarises those, but as you can imagine I can't cover everything because that's too much information to pass on. So it's a summary of the main points of the application. All of this is accessible by members of the public on the District Council's website or by going to the District Council offices. So it's a hybrid planning application. Effectively that's an application in 2 parts. The first part is an outline planning permission application for 555 dwellings plus other facilities. Now outline application means permission establishing the principle of development. So do you agree in principle with the development on this particular area, and all the nitty-gritty and the details can be agreed at a later date, which will be part of a reserved matters application. So the outline permission is for 555 dwellings, including affordable and key worker housing, 70-bed retirement accommodation, 70-bed extra care and nursing care accommodation, a 2-form entry primary school with associated vehicle parking, a special education needs centre, medical facilities, a local centre comprising of A1 retail space, sports hub, scout hut facility, office space, formal and informal open space, incorporating SUDS, which is sustainable drainage systems, that is the exact terminology, new country park, new planting, ecological enhancement works, and new access points and infrastructure. So that's the first part of the application, and then the other part of the application is full planning permission, which includes all the details, and that's for 135 dwellings, which includes 40% affordable housing, open space, associated access off Rayleigh Lane, internal circulation roads, vehicle parking, etc., as you can see. So the total number of conventional dwellings proposed across the site is up to 690. So this is just some of the text from the application. It's referred to land at former North Weald Golf Course. It's 63.4 hectares. It's part of a sustainable neighbourhood expansion, responding to the strategic aspirations of the district. It's a hybrid application, and the full part of the application, the 135 homes, is classed as phase 1A of the development. It's a hybrid application submitted by Quinn Estates and Redrow. So the full element of the application, there's detailed drawings of the development which have been submitted, and they demonstrate the first phase as we mentioned, and we will go into that as we go through. So this is the entire site which shows all phases of the development. So this is the Rayleigh Lane roundabout, 414, the Talbot is up this end, and this is the whole development. This would be a new roundabout access off the 414 that would take you into the development. There's also a new roundabout on Rayleigh Lane and various internal small roundabouts and junctions, etc. So that's the entire site. North of the 414 you have the country park, medical facilities, the school and the sporting facilities, and this area here is set aside for a potential future park and ride scheme. So this just goes into more close detail, which we can come back to at any time. Country park, primary school, special needs facility, scout hut, medical centre, park and ride, and then the sports facilities this side here. So the vision, Quinn Estates working with Redrow, and they want to create a cohesive and highly sustainable suburban extension to the village of North Weald Bassett. 690 homes, including a new park and ride, a resilient bus service and improvements to junction 7 of the M11. It will provide a wide range of high quality family housing and affordable homes where people will live and take pride in the environment. Significant increases in open space, recreational routes and children's play areas, which will benefit all residents. The scheme also provides outstanding community facilities that include new sporting facilities for this area and the surrounding district, education campus, etc. There is an indicative master plan which is submitted as part of the evidence, which we will go through. It says there it's proposed to have a minimal visual impact on the surrounding area, and with the provision of a landscape buffer will maintain the physical separation and character of the village. So it talks about the vision. It's want to create mixed-use development. They're embodying garden village principles, incorporates new business community with strong infrastructure links, 690 homes, a sporting super hub and education hub. They're using land which is not in agricultural use and does not produce crops, and is sequentially preferable and should be used ahead of any other sites in agricultural land. 40% affordable housing and the creation of a country park. So the site currently is not the subject of a draft allocation in the submission version of the local plan, but the applicant states that it facilitates far greater benefits than the other draft local plan allocations, specifically the provision of a much needed education facility and a guaranteed delivery of additional homes that will form an important part of the district's housing strategy. So they've contributed to the planning process for the expansion of North Weald Bassett over a number of years. It's been promoted as a viable opportunity. Let's go through. So just talking through some of the bits. So they have submitted a statement of community involvement, which details 38 pages long. It details the pre-application consultation that they have completed and with whom. And you'll see here it lists all of those organisations whom they have consulted with. We can go back to any of these councillors if you ask me to. So the applicant designed a consultation strategy that is compliant with the National Planning Policy Framework. It comprised of a series of meetings with individuals and groups identified in the previous slide, as well as wider public consultation events. The process of engagement is ongoing, and that is a theme that runs through the application actually, and further discussions will continue as the planning application is determined by District Council. So in light of the feedback that they had from residents and stakeholders, they state that the scheme has been evolved significantly. There were 2 events held in North Weald Village on those particular dates. This details how those events were advertised. There were 227 local residents and stakeholders who attended. A total of 138 feedback forms were returned, and this details what was changed in response to that feedback. So they reviewed, the applicant reviewed and enhanced the buffer strips, enhanced the buffer in proximity to the heritage asset, consideration of additional vehicular and pedestrian access for the 414, investment in junction 7 upgrades of the M11, consideration of off-site pedestrian and cycle links, looked at the relationship with North Weald Airfield by a specialist consultant, review of open space and drainage provision, changed the location of the proposed centre, purpose-built medical centre, increase area of public open space, And when you go onto the master plan, it states that the master plan has had a number of different versions. So I'm just going to read these out for you because you're not going to be able to see them. So point 1 here is classed as a node gateway entrance to the new development. So this actually would be part of phase 1 development. This is phase 1A. So that would form part of phase 1A. 2 is a new link road, so it's this one here. This forms the main road through the application site. 3, which is a landscaped linear gateway, greenway, which is at the heart of the scheme. This is the school. This is the sports hub, country park. 7, which is up here, a structural landscape around the perimeter with enhancements for ecology and biodiversity. 8, you have a structural landscape buffer to screen development from neighbouring residences. So this is the cemetery, you have St Andrew's Church and a number of residences along here. This is the strategic green space. 10 would be the new local centre, so shop, etc. And 11 here would be new allotments. So I know this is very hard for you to see, but if I talk through it. So these orange areas here would be residential. The pink areas here and here would be mixed use. Purple would be education campus. This would be a local centre. This area would be a sports hub. That's the country park. And these are existing buildings that do not form part of this application. It's a separate area. So in terms of movement and accessibility, you've got this area which is the proposed main spine road through the development. The others that you can see here in the red are the proposed primary access roads. These green dots that you can see here and along around here are pedestrian pathways and greenways. And there's also a number of existing public right-of-ways that you can see that run through the site. So different types of character. You have specialist residential areas here. So these 2 areas would be where the residential and care homes would be located. You've got business campus here. These green areas are classed as formal avenues. Obviously you've got the green space. And the blue area is education. So in terms of scale and massing, if you can think about the story and the height of buildings now, so this lighter colour is up to 2 stories in height. This orange colour is residential up to 3 stories. The purple is mixed use, which is up to 12 metres, because it's not residential. And these lighter areas are mixed use up to 10 metres. In terms of active frontages, it just talks about which are the areas which are going to be most visual from the development. We can come back to this if you'd like me to. In terms of density, so these lighter pink areas by medium density, moderate.
All very well done, all very nice. Many people I've spoken to, mainly in Hastings, but in other areas as well, are absolutely horrified, not so much of the planning etc. here, but the amount of traffic whereby at the moment it's gridlocked every day, early mornings, and this is an extra. They cannot believe that it will work as far as traffic. And whatever road, there's no mention of superstructures as far as extra roads, ways in, ways out. To me, they were absolutely horrified that the roads cannot take all that extra.
Your members to us.
I'm asking you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John. John, I wonder if you click on, because I'm a bit confused about something. There's a picture where it's got number 5 marked on. Carry on.
Future development.
That way? Yeah, right there. Because I'm concerned, I'm a bit confused, because earlier, on an earlier one, number 5, which is now identified as a sports hub, was previously identified as a potential park and ride. So I'm not, is it park and ride stroke sports hub?
So this area here is the sports hub.
Yeah.
And that area is the park and ride. I couldn't tell you why it's not correctly drawn on here, but every other piece
It's a small error. It's a small error. Okay.
of, so this area here is the sports hub. And that area is the park and ride. I couldn't tell you why it's not correctly drawn on here, but every other piece of,
It's a small error.
I believe so. I couldn't guarantee it, but I believe it is. Every other piece of evidence I've seen suggests that that's park and ride and that's sports hub.
Thank you very much for that clarification. The applicant, I think it's a brilliant application in the sense of all the facilities. It ticks all the boxes for what North Weald needs. Medical centre, all those great things. A bus service, and I must admit, Chairman, I've sat on many planning committees where bus services are being promised and then all of a sudden they seem to stop just after. The applicant, the wording we had earlier, and I think I've got it right, it says that this should be used ahead of any agricultural land and is an alternative to the local plan proposals, which is great. But therefore, in my view, why is this not being put forward to the inspector as an alternative to what the the district council has proposed for its draft local plan? Because I think what I've got it right, Chairman, the number that's being proposed is in addition to the proposed local plan figures. There's no part of the figures proposed. So if I've got this right, and the process is, if this was approved by the district council, then in addition to this, they would be then going to the inspector with the draft local plan, which has roughly got 1,050, I believe it is. So it would be, if I got it right, and I'm quite happy to be told I'm incorrect, we would be up to 1,500 again, which is what was the original figure, if I remember rightly. There's no defence. This goes against the whole principle. The district council rejected this site for their reasons on the basis of, so I understand it, that there was a defensible line about the green belt, Vicarage Lane West and the A414. It breaches that. It goes right out into the green belt. The applicant has said in their draft that the medical centre, the school, the sports hub, everything else will be at no expense to the taxpayer. I'm taking it, and the applicant is going to speak later, you might want to be able to clarify, I take it there's going to be a legal agreement that forever and ever these facilities will be funded by the developer, because it said that school is going to fall into repair and need replacing, work done, the sports hub, the scouts huts, everything else is going to be need repair. Now, if there's no expense to the taxpayer, my understanding, medical centres are still paid for by the state. Although the school would be run by the Education Authority, again the state, I assume that they would be having to fund it. So is there going to be a legal agreement that these facilities, however much wanted, and that's, I haven't heard anything from St Andrew's School or the diocese who actually own St Andrew's School, whether they want to be relocated. And of course that opens up what would happen with that site, but that's not part of it. So, Chairman, my view is, my long experience is, that this application should be heard as part of the local plan process. They should make their representations to the inspector. If he was to decide that this site is more better than the other sites that they're suggesting, then we could have that. Not, as my understanding is, this would be in addition. It's not part of the 1,050, it's in addition. I know councillors were really upset when there was 1,500 proposed. We're back to that figure. That's all I've got to say, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Buffley?
Yep, thanks. I think Councillor Stallin's just sort of taken the words right out of my mouth on there. But I think a lot of it, my concerns, it does boil down to the local plan. We fought hard and long as a parish council to get our numbers down to 1,050 from the local plan. We still have a little bit of dispute about that, because we feel that that is a disproportionate amount of houses given to North Weald as opposed to the other parishes within the Epping Forest District Council. But 1,050 is better than 1,500 at the moment, but we still live in hope. This extra 690, as Councillor Stalin said, will be in addition to, so that will be over 1,700 houses that you'll be looking at to be placed all around North Weald. If this proposal goes through, this planning application goes through, and it seemed to be favourable by the district council, you can bet your bottom dollar that every other planner or building site that's had that's been refused from the district, from the local plan, they will appeal as well. They will put this sort of thing through. And we've got a huge mass of land at the back of this side of the highway, going up to the redoubt, and that where a certain planner would want to sort of put something like 800 or 900 houses in. When you consider all that, this will be giving North Weald something like 3,000 new homes to contend with. We'll no longer be a small village, we'll be a town. And we're bordering on the same size as Epping, or we will be if this goes through. But that's the concern, and that's what sort of residents need to consider, that it will be, it's not just a flat, nice to have sort of thing. It does tick all the boxes, and it's very extremely well put together, and it's sort of, I think, it covers every resident's dream of having a facility that they've all longed for. Having said that, the other issue which one of the other councillors raised, and it's my second point of concern, is the A1414. It's an arterial road. It's that and the higher road through here, which is our only link, if you like, as North Weald residents of getting in and out of the village. Many of you will know that quite frequently, if the M25 is blocked, everybody makes a dart up the M25. They come to Chelmsford or they come to Brentwood. They get on the 414 to come through here, and many's the time it takes us 2 hours to get from the Talbot up to the M11 roundabout, which is exactly 2 miles. This we put in, if you look at all the facilities that's going to go on here, the number of houses that will go on there, we could be looking at about another 2,000 vehicles sort of transiting all round here. And this village, I think, particularly in the centre here, would end up being gridlocked. This high road in the morning, I live on the sort of main on the high road, it is getting chaotic in rush hours, and it will only get worse on there. But these are things that as residents you need to sort of consider on there. So those are 2 points I'd just like to make for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I have several matters which I would like to raise. First of all, the infrastructure. We've seen lots of scout huts and doctors' surgeries and such like, and I'm sure that any sizable developer would be prompted to do exactly the same thing. So I'm very keen on that aspect of it. But I would say one thing: that should be the first priority. Get the infrastructure and the surgery and the roads and such like in first, for 2 reasons. One, we'll make sure that it's done before any of the houses are, and we wouldn't want any developers going broke or Section 106 money is sort of not being paid and that sort of thing. And also, if it's going to take 10 years, tell the scouts they've got to wait 10 years for their scout hut. That's wrong. No. Whichever developer, whether it's Quinn or whether it's these up here, anyone with a sizable development who promises that, get that in first. That's number one. Secondly, when I looked at some of the detail on this particular plan, on the water section, there was a company called Argent, and they said that people to the south of the development should exit through, I think, Merlin Way and wherever, essentially to the high road. Now, that doesn't seem a very clever idea to me. I mean, in general, this site seems a good idea in that it's not exactly remote from North Weald Bassett, but very close. But certainly we wouldn't want any more traffic going through the village. It's bad enough as it is. But the one big problem is that, of course, I'm sure that this would have been presented in outline, at least to Epping Forest District Council anyway, and the question is, why did they refuse it? Now, if it looks good to us, it must have looked good to them. So the only reason can be that Epping Forest District Council have maybe better ideas for the number that we're going to get, which might be perhaps near this, so this would supersede their numbers, perhaps on the airfield, where I think there are probably about 500 planned long term. So, is that why it was rejected? In which case, maybe it wouldn't be additional to, it would be instead of some of the houses planned by Epping Forest District Council. And really, we could talk about the numbers, but generally speaking, North Weald Bassett as a whole is going to get around, over the period up to 2033, up to about 2,200. That's what's scheduled, 2,200. So this, and possibly the one up the road, is going to make it 3,000, or just 2,000 if Epping Forest District Council withdraw theirs. Now, I'm very worried about Epping Forest District Council, because their planning department have been working on this for some 6 years to my knowledge, although they claim that it started in 2010, and they haven't even got anybody within the council itself as an employee who is directing this. The only person directing this, or the lead person, is actually a consultant who will be up and away as soon as the inspector has put their stamp on it, and I don't think we'll just be left to carry the can afterwards. I'm very unhappy about the way Epping Forest District Council have handled it, and of course it's still in court at present, proving that they didn't make such a fine job of it in the first place. Amen.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Is it?
135.
135. Then the second full planning will be for more houses. The third full planning will be for more houses.
No, so this,
then they'll forget about the rest of the site.
no, so this application is for outline permission for 555 dwellings and full permission for 135. Right. So if that gets passed at the district council, the applicant would have permission for 690 homes, albeit 555 of those, the detail of which would have to be agreed at a later stage.
And will there be safeguards put in to the planning permission to make sure that the other items, like the hospital or the scout hut, the football pitches, etc., will be built?
So the district council would agree section 106 agreements with the applicant, but I couldn't tell you what that would be, what would be agreed, etc. I don't know.
So the likelihood is they could decide, oh, we're not, can't be bothered anymore, we'll go away, and let's sell the rest of the site. We've built our houses, we'll sell the rest of the site, and they've set a precedent. So someone else will move in and build more houses on where, which is going to be the pleasure park and the play areas and the football pitches and the scout hut and the police station. Police station. Was the police station mentioned?
No.
When did you last see a policeman?
Councillor Mulliner, I think you're preempting.
Aerodrome.
I think you're preempting what district council will do. I think that's beyond our realm.
In the three that we're paying for, you won't see them either.
Chairman, can I just say that we do have a written objection here. Can I just read you the salient points of that written objection, because that person couldn't come here this evening?
Yes, okay.
And I know we have people who do want to speak for the application. So the written objection is from a resident, and they are representing the users group. And what they've said that there's considerable.
Could you speak up, please? I'm sorry.
It's from the airfield users group, and they said there's considerable concern among the airfield users group and others. And they do say including many local residents, and I have actually asked if they have evidence of that it's from many local residents, and they haven't come back to me on that. But they who wish to see the airfield survive well into the future. The main issues of concern are proximity of the residential development to the northern end runway and adjacent hard standing where full power engine check regularly take place. Such a location for residential development, including sheltered housing, is sorry, I can't.
I've done that now. Sorry.
Sheltered housing is compatible in such close proximity to aircraft operations due to the noise levels to be expected. Safety. Much of this land is currently open ground. In the event of technical problems during takeoff, landing, or in this circuit, open ground in proximity to the runway or the airfield. It often provides the pilot with options for a relatively safe forced landing. The existing driving range, sports pitches, open parkland provide both a green open space and noise buffer between the airfield and development beyond. In general terms, the proposed development and significant related traffic will lead to further issues and congestion on access roads to the airfield, and it makes more sense to provide additional leisure, community and sports facilities on the publicly owned unused airfield land. There are other issues of concern as for it not being part of the local plan and its potential to unbalance the makeup of the village as a whole. Also, I have actually got a copy of the letter from, I think it's Galleon, with regard to the bus service, and everything Adriana said is completely correct. At the time, we do not wish to comment on this application.
Okay.
Which maybe the best thing to do if we don't wish to comment.
Yeah. Councillor Blank.
Yeah, the usual course of events is